And welcome to another episode of Don't Get This Twisted. I am the professor, along with my co-host, as always, Tina. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Professor?
Oh, I'm getting by on a lovely day here in Southern California. I thought today we'd hit some subjects that are going through all of America, pretty much in every state, on every level. It's kind of the rise of mental health, like the bad part that's going on. I think that mental health issues are definitely on the rise. You look at shootings and drugs and suicides, etc. I thought maybe we'd have a little sit down and kind of talk, and from either experience of people that we know that had issues or just what we've heard. We can start with basically what I was thinking is, why do we think it's on the rise? Why do you think we're having so many issues here these days?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think that everybody wants a quick fix. So doctors are writing out prescriptions that too frequently and too freely. I think that there's a breakdown in the home and also in community, especially with COVID going on, especially, but it was even before, the breakdown of family and not having support and being isolated. I think those are huge reasons for it.
Yeah. I've kind of tried to think out what it was, and I was thinking lots of things as well, but you brought up family, and I think you're right. I think the lack of parents, either one or the other, for one, because of divorce. We know we have divorce issues in this country, and the lack of a father. I'm lucky. I was lucky enough to have my kid, and I've had him since I got a divorce. So he wasn't without a father, and he also wasn't without a mother. I made sure that he stayed, always going to that. But I think there's an issue that you're right. It's a correlation between mental health and the family not being there.
Absolutely. I know since even losing the family heads, grandparents, and then my mom, that there's even a breakdown still of family. We still have our family unit. Everybody gets together. It's just not the same. The closeness, the glue, like they say, it's not there anymore. And it's hard being the next generation trying to keep it together like she did, because I'm not her. Definitely not my mom. We do things totally different. And I, with my niece and nephew trying to keep traditions, we really don't keep traditions. I just do whatever I want to with them. We have a good time, and that's it. We may not do it again, or we may. I think traditions and stuff went when my mom did.
Yeah, and I think with social media and such, the lack of being in any kind of family thing where, I used to go to barbecues all the time or do this or do that. And again, the COVID thing is one thing, but I think that self-isolation, I think teenagers and younger people self-isolate. And I don't understand why, but it seems that way.
I think that everybody's just used to communicating through their phone or their tablet, and they forget that the person is even sitting right in front of them, because you see everybody in the family is on their phone at dinner. Nobody's interacting, but everybody's talking to someone. Just who are they talking to? If not each other.
Yeah. And you're right. You see it in droves where I'll go out to dinner and there'll be 5 or 6 teenagers in a corner, all on their phone, barely chatting.
Yeah.
It's like
this boys sitting next to girls and not doing anything. It's kind of weird. It's not the way we were raised.
Exactly. I remember, obviously we were raised without a lot of technology. There was no personal computer. There wasn't any of this stuff. So I get that. And I'm all up for technology, but not when it ruins people. And I think that we're starting to ruin people. And again, adults our age are just as bad. I think that we've taken that technology and ran with it just as much, which is for another show, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I think you're right. I think that is why it's on the rise. The lack of family, social media, and other things that are just outside the regular that we grew up in. So
Plus just living in this world right now, it's heavy. It's not, it's not when I was younger and growing up, I didn't worry about all these things that were going on all over the world. And it's amazing to see how many things could be wrong now that everybody knows about. And yet I don't know, maybe it's the news media trying to make all of us scared and stuff, but we just grew up in a day and age where we didn't have all this information to just totally bog us down.
It's drowning.
It is.
Yeah, it's like you as soon as you think your head's above water, it's not. And coming back to where we were kind of talking off air, like, why do you think it's affecting younger people more than adults? I mean, obviously adults, I think it's more stress oriented with work and getting the rent on time and keeping this, I hate to say keeping up with the Joneses on the block, but that's a true thing as well. Like, so an adult, I kind of understand where you just feel totally weighed down. Like, you go to work with chains on, you come home with chains on, you got to cook dinner, you got to do this, you got to do that. But I think youth,
I think the answer is what's weighing you down is that thing you keep in your pocket that you're holding on to against your head all day. It's exhausting. Remember the day when the phone had to ring and you had to go and pick it up and there was a cord attached and you had to sit there and everybody heard your conversation? It kept you from saying a lot of stupid shit. Now, if you had put a cell phone in my hand back in the day, with the camera and all the stuff that it's got on it, I would have been in so much trouble. Not only would I have been in trouble, but I would have done some stupid things I'd still be trying to live down.
Right. I agree. And I think that also turns into a stressful situation for a young person. You send the wrong picture, you send the wrong text, people copy it and send it to everyone else. By the time you get back to school, let's say, over the weekend, your whole life could change.
Absolutely. And it does. I hear this a lot where kids do something stupid and everybody in the school knows. There's bulletins sent home with the kids. Like there's phone calls that go to the home. I couldn't imagine how I wouldn't want to do anything because everything would be so magnetized. Like it wouldn't have been when we were younger.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that everything is blown up tenfold now, no matter what it is. You change your hair color, you do this, you do that, you don't wear the right shoes, whatever. It's probably blown up way more. Mine just got out of high school. He was lucky. He's kind of his own monster. So he didn't fall into that caring as much. He really never had any problems per se. He did get in one fight, but it was not his fault. But I think I can see why. It's just so easy. And I hate to say bully, but to bully people or press them to the point where they're depressed. And from depression comes mental health. That's one of the things.
But when we were younger and we were getting pressed, it was to make us do something. We've gotten to the point where it's okay to be a victim all the time. So instead of trying to rise to the occasion and do what you need to do for whatever you're getting razzed for, like it's gone the other direction where everything's, backwards.
Yeah, and I also think there was a lot more fist fights when we were in school. But
it kind of killed things, it made things stop.
You just threw down. You did it. But now, again, you can't even do that in school. You have a fight in high school and everything changes. Everyone gets sent home. Everyone gets suspended. It's a whole ordeal because of other issues. But I don't know. I think that it's sad to see that the youth of this country is going to therapy on a much higher level. We didn't go to therapy, and if you did, it was a big deal. And I'm a proponent of therapy. Like, I think therapy is a good thing. You should talk to people that can psychoanalyze you outside of your family bubble, because sometimes the people inside the bubble don't know the answers as well. So better for them to at least see things differently.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that we send everyone to therapy. Like, we do have to have some kind of hard shell, because if we don't, you're not going to make it in this world, because on the outside of school, no one gives a shit. Right? When you start a job and you work for somebody, they really don't care.
Right. That's true.
Or if they do, it's frowned upon when you have a mental health issue.
Right.
I don't know. So, going on the backside of that, what we were just talking about, why do you think the rise in doctors prescribing medication to much younger people? And I'm not talking high school age. There's people in junior high that are being put on antidepressants on a much larger level.
I don't know. I think isolation's a good reason to be depressed.
No, I agree. But what, I mean, do you think that, I don't think that the drug is always the answer, though. Like,
No.
you can't, you're setting these people up to be addicts or always try to solve something with a pill. And I will also say that the medical industry doesn't help this. You know what I mean? Like, they push pills regardless of what it's for.
Well, that's a money issue.
It is, but it's also,
okay. For the patient, it's to just numb out or to calm down or to subdue certain behaviors. And it really isn't to deal with the problem at all, but doctors prescribe it because everybody wants a quick fix. Then really, if you could take a pill and not go to therapy, would you just take the pill, or would you go to therapy? I think a lot of people, yes. I don't have time. So give me the pill. I'm going to take whatever I got to, and then I'll deal with the rest. I think we set ourselves up with that.
Yes. But I think that as the person taking the pill, you're right. You feel a certain way, and maybe on the surface that is a great thing. But you're still holding in the issues.
Absolutely.
You're just masking the problem, which is why therapy can work for people. Generally, we have our own therapy, right? I mean, at least in my case, it's like a 4-hour breakfast with your best friend.
Right.
You end up going to chat about one thing that, and again, it is a big deal, but you don't realize that, you both end up spilling your guts all over the place. So what you think is like, hey, we're going to go for an hour breakfast. I'm going to find out about this, this, and this. The next thing you know, you're there for 4 hours and you're planning a podcast.
Are you talking about us?
Yeah. So I find that kind of thing funny, that I think our generation self-therapies in a lot of things, where you bounce it off your friends a bunch of different ways.
I think women do too. Women as a group will always get together, do a lunch or have a girls' night out. I mean, they do, they make nights and have book clubs and stuff. But again, it's to not feel isolated. It's to be part of a community, to be part of something a little bit bigger.
I think women are way better at it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Men in general are meant or were raised to be strong, keep it in, work around it. It's okay. And again, I think that that's a 1940s, that was passed on to the next generation, that was passed on to us, that hopefully we broke a little bit. Like I'm up for saying, be strong. Like you don't have to, do this or do that. But I think as a man, you should have emotions. You shouldn't, think that you're bulletproof and you can't do it. So with some men, I think we talk to each other, but I think in general, that's a very much a woman thing.
Well, even just going out and having a beer and watching the game with your buddies should be some form of therapy. Like you're getting away, you're shooting the shit, you're doing something outside of taking care of your family. That's a good thing to be doing too. And it does help when you hang out with your guys and you laugh and you joke around. You don't feel as bad as you did if you didn't go and you were just sitting there and again in isolation.
Yes, but I think women talk the problem out.
That's true.
Like we also mask the problem as well with the football game, this, and this. I think women are much more apt to go out and in a smaller group and tell each other the problem, like the real problem. Unlike men who, you're right, we'll go out, we'll have our wings and a beer and watch the football game and skirt around what's going on at home. It's the I'm okay with in parentheses, whatever you think okay is. Women, I think, are much better communicators when it comes to that.
They are, but they will also hold back things that they don't want anybody else to know too. It's, it depends on the group that you're with, because not until the last 10 years was I in a group that I felt like I could say anything. So I think that it's very good to have those groups and all, but again, therapy is not a bad idea because like you said, it's somebody from the outside, is somebody that you could share any secret, the ones that you can't tell your friends. Therapy is good for getting that out. Correct.
I definitely agree. I think that, it's a big thing. I've never done it. I probably should at some point, just to kind of I've never been. You've never done.
Okay.
Okay. Never done therapy. I probably should have years ago. But I think it's good just to get things out to somebody who either is a very outside the situation. Because at least they can go, okay. And again, it's a schooling thing. They're going to hit bullet points and they take things in and try to psychoanalyze you. But it's, I think, better to do it with somebody who knows nothing about you.
I agree with that.
So going off of kind of what we were just talking about, like, I think we all suffer from some kind of mental health. Something, whether it can be a shoestring or it can be these massive rocks. Would you agree more that with people that you talk to that they all have a similar issue or it's kind of, I hate to say that we all have a mental health problem, but I think we do. Because that, again, that's what a drinking date's for. That's why all the girls get together and have wine so they can feel like a community and still be able to say small things about about what's going on in your life.
Right.
I mean, and I think that we're more apt to do it now more than ever, just because we want people to listen, because we haven't been in that situation of seeing people in such a long time. It's like this massive dump of how you feel right now.
No, I agree. Well, just catching up, like I had a party this last weekend and I hadn't seen some people in almost 2 years. And these are people I normally see I don't know, once every month, every couple of months at least, there's some sort of interaction going on. But the last year and a half, almost 2 years, there's been no connection. So just, I think catching up is part of the dumping too, because there's been so much.
Yeah, there's people I literally haven't seen in 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I had clients that I saw every week that I haven't seen in a couple of years, almost 2 years now. That's insane. I saw them every week for 20 something years.
That is kind of crazy, like that you haven't seen them at all, like because of the the industry you're in. That's something that a lot of people don't skip on.
Right.
It's just you don't. I mean,
but they hadn't left the house in a year and a half either.
Yeah, which is a whole other thing on mental health. I think that this has been a massive problem. I mean, we talked about it in the quarantine show, that what it's done to people and where this is going, and mental health is just another backdrop on why people are having problems with drugs or alcoholism and suicide, which is a major problem.
Right.
I mean, I unfortunately have a friend who many years ago died of a drug overdose, and he had major mental health issues that no one knew about. No one.
Nobody even talked about mental illness as a problem or even anything. I mean, Reagan was the one that shut down all of the mental health benefits. That's when we were younger. I mean, we were really around when Reagan was in office. Yeah. And it wasn't a problem. It wasn't an issue. There was no need for that. And there's been nothing but a need since. I mean, if you look at the homeless population now and growing, the suicide rates are high. We're talking about drug overdoses, everything that creates like this little whirlwind for depression and anxiety. We've created this little world just for it.
Correct. And with the homeless problem, obviously, a massive health issue, mental health issue in that community, probably for, in a lot of cases in the beginning, just being alone, being stressed over having to get money or food or whatever, has to just, be so stressful. And then again, the being alone thing, anytime you're put in a situation of being in solitary or not with people, the only person to talk to is you.
That's true.
And then a lot of these people come from bad situations, family problems, ex-military. There's a lot of military people out there that when they came back from whatever fight they were in, have just been dropped on the street. And that's a huge problem. And it's sad. It's sad that we're doing this to people. And look, I want to help the homeless. It's important. We want to get these people back into society. But how do we do that with knowing they have something that is a problem?
I really don't know. I think about that, but I know that the best thing would not be to keep them on the streets. There's got to be a place where they could go so that they could start to heal. But what do you do when people don't want to go and don't want to be healed?
I think that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is, you're right. No one wants, a lot of those people don't want help because they've been on the street so long trying to function in regular society. They don't understand it.
But is that true? Do all of them really want to be on the streets? I don't know.
I don't think all of them.
Yeah.
But there's definitely people that, they've tried to help who can't function in an everyday life of work and this and that. After you've been on the street for so long, they can't do it. And it's, I mean, I don't know how to help them. It's unfortunate. I mean, I drove through the valley not too long ago, and it's bad. It's like there's homeless tent communities on streets in front of movie theaters. It's very crazy.
Yeah. And not only that, but there's so much trash on every street in the valley right now because the homeless are just pitching tents and leaving their waste everywhere. And it's become quite a problem.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's became a problem in a lot of places. Downtown LA it's been like that for years and years and years. What do you think? And I know this is kind of an off the wall and like a question that hard for you to answer because there's really no answer for it. But how do we fix this issue? How do we fix the mental health issue within either communities, whether you're homeless or at home and you're having issues? It's hard for us as people, I think, to say you're broken.
I think if people just had better access to mental health professionals and it wasn't something where you needed to have insurance and it wasn't something where you had to pay what they have to pay in order to have a doctor visit like that, I think that would be a good first step. And we talk about the homeless and people that are on the streets. If that's a problem, we should be helping them first and get them off the streets and to get them the help that they need. And they're not going to have the money for that. So I'm not a fan of saying that everybody needs, healthcare, but there's got to be a way to pay for this and to help these people out so that we don't have them living in filth on the streets.
Yeah, I think some kind of subsidized mental health place should be made. I think you're right. I think someone like a free clinic almost on mental health. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to get people to come in and talk. And I'm talking on all levels, homeless or at home. Like if you're having a problem and you feel like you want your life to end, you shouldn't have to worry about paying somebody to tell them to try to help you off the ledge. That's a huge problem where you can't go to everyone. Not everyone's going to get online and type a message on Facebook about how depressed you are and you don't want to live.
Right.
That happens, but most people are holding this in and at some point snap and do the unimaginable and take their own life. And if maybe they had that one place they could have went to fix it outside of their friends.
Or even at that point, just rely on your friends. I mean, you got to do what you need to do to get your needs met. And if your friends can't help shoulder some of the weight, then you need to keep looking for better friends. You need to set up your own tribe so that you're supported whatever way you need to be.
Yeah. Again, I think we come from a different generation where I think our friends were much more likely to want to help.
Right.
I think today it's your problem, not mine. And until it's far too late, knowing my son's school, they had suicides, again, out of nowhere and no note, didn't leave anything, nothing. And then I would be like, what do you think happened? And he would be like, yeah, no one knows. Just, you snap. And again, there's always going to be those. There's going to be the ones who just fall off. But how about the ones who we found out are begging for help and no one helps them? And I think that's where you're correct. Like some kind of free mental health care, subsidize it. It doesn't have to be crazy. You could set up a trailer in a parking, lot near those people.
And I'm not even saying free, but make it low cost enough where somebody, Because I think part of the problem is that when you give something to someone that's free, they don't have value in it. So if we make it affordable, but not free, so that they have to work just a little bit, I don't care if it's $10 a visit, but work a little bit so that you can make your own self healthy. I think that that would help.
Yeah. Okay. I'm down for that. I'll go in on you on that. You're right. There has to be some kind of end game to where at the end you feel like you've done something for yourself.
Well, if you're going to therapy, you go to get better. You're not, so you do the steps. If there's steps to do it and people know what to expect, then maybe that would help too. Because I know a lot of people going to therapy and they're freaking out because they don't even know what to expect. I had one friend say, do you sit on a couch every time that you go to your counselor's house? I'm like, I don't lay down. I sit in a chair. We kind of hang out in the back room. It's not a big deal. But she had in her head that I had to sit down, and she used the term shrink. I thought that was so funny. It's not even like that.
Yeah, I think that's very Hollywood. The long fainting chair that you have to lay in and talk. And I'm sure people really still do that. But I think you're right. It's more of a chair across from each other and just saying your problems. I think you're right. It's way more than that, than the Hollywood stigma. And I think that the stigma is the problem. The stigma of, oh, you go to therapy?
Yeah. I find lunch dates are really kind of cool for me because of being a hairdresser. I kind of block out a little bit of time, and whatever friend wants to go with me is what we do. And it is all like a little counseling session. And it's a listening to each other. And sometimes we don't agree and sometimes things get a little heated. But for the most part, that's where everybody comes, dumps whatever's going on, leaves it on the table. We pay the check and we leave. And I think maybe we need to start making more time for that sort of thing too. Because there's ways that we could all be helping, even if there isn't mental health situations set up for everybody.
I agree. Yeah, I would rather go to lunch, breakfast, dinner with someone that I know I can dump a lot of stuff on them, whether it's heavy or not, and know that they're going to at the end of it still give me a hug before they leave and still say everything's going to be okay. And please, if you have any problems, keep calling.
Yeah, I think that's important. Again, with technology and everything going on, it's very easy to stay isolated. And I think that the more we're isolated, the more we don't get involved with each other, the more we don't help. This is going to continue to be a problem that climbs. I think we need to get back to being a community, a friend, a family member. We need to start like checking in instead of just leaving everything for a text message.
Yeah. And I think something you said early, I think that the youth of today has no real involvement with the older generation. I think they find them to be irritating rather than someone that they can really learn from. And I think that is something that really needs to be looked at more. Push it without pushing hard, but I think it's important that your children understand that their grandparents are something who they can really learn something from, as well as their parents. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot, like you said, if the family is an issue.
It's also, I have a niece that's 12 and a nephew that is 15, and they are not talkers. I have to bug them every single time I see them. Okay, let's hear 3 things you're learning or doing or is going on in school. I don't care what 3 things they are. They could tell me about the tissue that they wadded up and threw on the ceiling. We had a good conversation about that. But nonetheless, I make them both tell me 3 different things they need to check in with me. And I also encourage them to whenever I'm home with them, I I tell them to come sit on the bed with me and hang out. And what are you TikToking? And what are you doing? Like, I am the aunt that will get involved, and I'm sure I get under their skin. But now they're starting to come to me with their little jokes from in their little videos from TikTok, and things that they probably wouldn't show somebody else, but they share with me because they know that my sense of humor is at least like theirs, and we could share things. But man, is that exhausting. It's harder to get them to tell me 3 things than it was to get you to talk to me. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, that was really difficult.
It was insane. Nobody needs to hold out to that degree. But yeah, so the kids are not easy, but I notice that things are starting to change, and they want to share things with me. And I tell the oldest that the youngest is being mean, and he puts his arms around me and gives me a hug. He's never done that before, but I think because I'm constantly trying to interact with them, you kind of got to break through at some point. And I think I've done that.
That's that, and I think that's a good thing. And obviously, they can come to you and say anything. It's a plus. You're going to help them at least be able to talk, and I think that's a big thing.
Absolutely. And I always say, if I'm doing something wrong or there's something you don't like, just tell me. I will correct that, and we can move on, because we don't need to not like each other. Let's stay close. Let's be close. I'm hoping that they're not a generation lost, and when they get older, they don't even pick up the phone when I call them. I really hope that we could still share these things and do these things, because I'm putting in the time and the effort. But right. Everybody should. We should all put the phones down a little bit and get engaged with each other.
Totally agree. So final thoughts. Let's go down our final thoughts. What's your final thought for mental health on today's show?
I think that we definitely need to put more value into it and start helping where need be. We need to start doing something, because we're not getting healthy as a society by keeping all this homelessness and sickness. It's just sickness that people need help with. It just needs to be addressed.
I will double down on that and say communication. Communication is everything. Communication with your kids, communications with your mate, communications with your friends. Everything is about communication. And I think as long as we can continue to communicate, we'll learn more about each other and find out our pitfalls if we do have some kind of even small mental health issue. And on a side note, there's a show that I want everyone to watch on Netflix. It's called Afterlife. It has Ricky Gervais in it. It has to do with mental health and how you can deal with it with therapy and with your friends. It's kind of it's a dark comedy, but it's I think a really good point of how we see mental health all over the place. So check that out. Again, we're not affiliated with Netflix, just so you know. So we're not telling you to watch it, but I'm saying check it out.
Well, that's the way to say that, huh?
Hey, you got to make sure we don't get in trouble. On that, we're going to say a happy good night for my co-host, Tina. I am the professor. And as always, whether you like the show or you don't, please don't get this twisted.